They are living on your street right now and you would never guess it. The man in the 10-year-old car, the woman in the unremarkable house with the worn front door, the quiet couple who never talk about money, never flash anything, never seem impressed by the things that impress everyone else. You have written them off as ordinary, maybe even as struggling like you. And you have no idea that some of them are sitting on more wealth than the loud, flashy people you secretly envy. These are the millionaires next door, the silent rich, and they share one thing in common, one mental habit so quiet and so foreign to the way you think that you have never even noticed it, let alone copied it. It is not their income. It is not their luck. It is not even their discipline in the way you imagine discipline. It is a single specific way of holding money in their minds, and once you see it, you will understand why all your chasing has produced nothing, while their quiet, not chasing has produced everything. Let me tell you what the one mental thing is, and then I will spend the rest of this video proving it to you and teaching you how to install it in yourself. The quiet millionaire assumes wealth as an identity, not as a goal. Read that again slowly. They do not want to be wealthy. They simply are wealthy in their own minds, as a settled fact about who they are, long before and entirely apart from the number in the account. Wealth, for them, is not something out there to be pursued and captured. It is something in here, a part of their identity, as basic and unquestioned as their own name. And because it is an identity rather than a goal, they never chase it, never strain for it, never broadcast the desperate signal of someone trying to get something they do not have. This is the thing almost no one understands about the quiet rich. They manifest wealth without ever chasing it, because to them wealth is not out there to be hunted. It is simply who they are, and you do not chase what you already are. They radiate the calm of someone who already is what everyone else is trying to become, and the world, including money itself, responds to that radiated identity in 1,000 ways that compound silently over decades into real, durable wealth. You, by contrast, hold wealth as a goal, a distant object, a someday, a destination you are forever traveling toward and never arriving at. And here is the cruel mechanism that keeps it that way. A goal by its very nature is something you do not have. Every time you set wealth as a goal, you affirm in the deepest layer of your mind that you are currently without it, that it is out there and not here, that you are the person who lacks it and is trying to get it. And the law of the mind, the law Neville spent his life teaching, is that you become what you assume yourself to be. Assume yourself to be someone reaching for wealth, and you remain permanently someone reaching, because reaching is now your identity. The quiet millionaire stopped reaching, not because they got the money, but because they adopted the identity, and the identity drew the money. You have the order reversed, and the reversal is why you have spent years in motion and gone nowhere. I want you to really feel the difference, because intellectually it sounds small, and it is actually everything. Picture two people sitting in the exact same financial situation, same account balance, same bills, same income. The first thinks, I am broke. I need money. I have to make this work. I cannot afford to fail. Every thought is a thought of lack, of need, of reaching. The second, in the identical situation, thinks, I am a wealthy person experiencing a temporary low point. Money is simply my natural condition. This is a dip in a life that is fundamentally abundant. Same facts. Opposite identities, and from these opposite identities flow opposite behaviors, opposite decisions, opposite energies, opposite results. The first person makes desperate, fearful, scarcity-driven choices that produce more scarcity. The second makes calm, confident, abundance-driven choices that produce more abundance. The bank balance did not determine the identity. The identity is now determining the future bank balance. This is the whole secret of the millionaire next door. Hidden in plain sight, available to you the moment you are willing to change not your circumstances, but your sense of who you are. Now let us be clinical about why identity is so much more powerful than goals, because understanding the mechanism is what lets you trust it enough to actually use it. Your brain organizes everything around your sense of identity. It is constantly, automatically, working to keep your behavior consistent with who you believe you are. This is why people who lose weight through willpower alone often gain it back, because their identity is still that of an overweight person, and the brain quietly steers them back to match the identity. And it is why someone who genuinely becomes, in identity, a fit person, maintains the body almost effortlessly, because now the brain is defending the new identity instead of fighting it. Money works identically. If your identity is broke, your brain will sabotage every windfall, steer you back to your familiar level, and filter the world so you cannot see the opportunities a wealthy person would see. But if your identity becomes wealthy, the same machinery reverses, defending the wealth, steering you toward it, opening your eyes to openings that were always there but invisible to your old self. You do not have a money problem. You have an identity problem, and identity is the one thing fully within your power to change. Watch how the quiet millionaire actually behaves, because the behaviors reveal the identity, and the behaviors are teachable. They are not impressed by expensive things, because impressiveness is for people trying to feel wealthy, and they already feel wealthy, so the display means nothing to them. They do not chase the appearance of money, because the appearance is what you reach for when you lack the substance, and they have the substance in their identity. They make decisions slowly and calmly, from a sense of having options, because a person who assumes abundance assumes there will always be another opportunity, another deal, another door, and so they never act from the panic that produces bad choices. They do not fear loss the way you do, because their wealth is located in their identity, not in any particular sum, so even a real financial loss does not threaten who they are, and this fearlessness lets them take the intelligent risks that the fearful never take. Every one of these behaviors flows from the single underlying identity of already being wealthy, and every one of them quietly compounds into the actual wealth that the rest of the world mistakes for luck. Before I show you exactly how to install this identity in yourself, the way you would reprogram any deep belief, do this one thing for me. In the comments, finish this sentence honestly. When I think about money, I secretly feel like someone who, and complete it with the truth, not the affirmation. When I think about money, I secretly feel like someone who is always behind, someone who has to struggle, someone who never quite has enough. Whatever the real answer is, write it, because you cannot change an identity you will not look at, and the silent millionaires you envy simply have a different ending to that sentence, an ending you are about to learn to write for yourself. Put your honest ending in the comments and then stay with me, because in the next part, I'm going to give you the exact process for dismantling the broke identity and building the wealthy one in its place, the process that turns the one mental thing the millionaires do into something you do automatically. So how do you actually change an identity when it feels so fixed, so much like simply who you are? The first thing to understand is that your current money identity is not the truth about you. It is an accumulation of assumptions, absorbed and repeated until it hardened into a sense of self. You were not born feeling broke. You learned it from the words you heard, the scarcity you witnessed, the experiences you interpreted through a lens that was handed to you before you could question it. And because it was learned, it can be unlearned, and a new identity can be learned in its place through the same process by which the old one was installed, which is repeated assumption felt as real until it becomes natural. The millionaire next door usually absorbed their wealthy identity by accident, from a family or environment that simply assumed abundance. You will install yours on purpose, which is harder at first but ultimately more powerful, because a chosen identity, consciously maintained, is more durable than one inherited without understanding. The core practice is this: you begin to assume in your imagination that you are already a wealthy person, and you live from that assumption in the privacy of your mind until it becomes the natural way you feel about yourself. Not someone becoming wealthy, someone who is wealthy now as an identity, regardless of the current evidence. You do this most powerfully in the drowsy state before sleep, when the conscious mind that protests this cannot be true loosens its grip, and the deeper mind accepts the new self-image. You occupy the feeling of being a person for whom money is simply not a problem, for whom abundance is the natural background condition of life. And you let yourself fall asleep as that person, night after night. Each night you fall asleep in the wealthy identity. It sinks a little deeper, until one day you notice that you have stopped feeling like someone reaching for money and started feeling like someone who simply has it. And that shift, invisible to everyone around you, is the exact moment your financial reality begins to turn. But the identity must be defended in the daylight, because the world is constantly trying to reassign you to your old self. Every bill, every comparison, every setback is an invitation to step back into the broke identity, to think and feel and react as the person who lacks. And here is the discipline that separates those who transform from those who relapse. When the invitation comes, you decline it, not by forcing positivity, but by quietly refusing to occupy the old identity. The bill arrives, and instead of becoming the panicked broke person, you remain the wealthy person who is simply handling a detail. The comparison arises, and instead of becoming the person who is behind, you remain the person who is abundant, and therefore has no need to measure yourself against anyone. This is not pretending. This is choosing which self to occupy in each moment, and every time you choose the wealthy identity over the broke one, especially when the evidence tempts you toward the broke one, you strengthen the new self and weaken the old, until eventually the wealthy identity becomes your default, and the broke one fades from disuse. I want to dismantle the objection that is surely rising in you now, the feeling that this is delusional. That feeling wealthy while being broke is a lie you are telling yourself. This objection comes from a misunderstanding of where wealth actually originates. You think wealth is a fact about your bank account that you must wait for permission to feel. But the quiet millionaire reveals the opposite truth. Wealth originates as an identity and then expresses itself as a bank account. The feeling is not a delusion about the present. It is the seed of the future. When you assume the wealthy identity before the evidence, you are not lying about what is. You are planting what will be. The farmer who plants a seed is not lying when he treats the bare field as a future harvest. He is operating from the law of cause and effect, knowing the seed precedes the crop. Your wealthy identity is the seed. The bank account is the crop. And waiting to feel wealthy until the money arrives is exactly like refusing to plant until the harvest appears, which guarantees you will never harvest anything at all. Let me show you how this identity reshapes the practical decisions that actually build wealth, because the identity is not merely a feeling, it is the source of 1,000 small choices that compound. From the broke identity, you spend to feel better, because the lack is painful, and spending temporarily relieves it, which is why poor consciousness and overspending so often travel together. From the wealthy identity, you do not need to spend to feel wealthy, because you already feel wealthy, and so you naturally keep and grow your money rather than bleeding it to soothe an ache that is no longer there. From the broke identity, you grab the first opportunity out of desperation, often a bad one because you assume scarcity and fear that nothing better will come. From the wealthy identity, you can wait, evaluate and choose well because you assume abundance and trust that good opportunities are plentiful. From the broke identity, you undercharge, underask and accept too little because you do not feel worthy of more. From the wealthy identity, you ask for what you are worth and walk away from less because your sense of value flows from your identity, not from your circumstances. The identity is upstream of all of it, and changing the identity changes every decision downstream, and the decisions are what build or destroy wealth over time. There is a profound calm that comes with this identity, and I want you to understand that the calm is not a luxury, it is a functional part of the wealth-building machine. Desperation makes you stupid with money. Fear narrows your vision, triggers bad decisions, and repels the very people and opportunities that could help you, because no one wants to do business with desperation, and everyone is drawn to calm confidence. The quiet millionaire's calm is not the result of having money, as you assume. It came first as part of the identity, and it is precisely what allowed the wealth to accumulate, because calm makes you smart, patient, and attractive to opportunity, while desperation makes you foolish, hasty, and repellent. When you install the wealthy identity, the calm comes with it, and that calm will improve your financial decisions immediately, long before the large sums arrive, because you will stop making the panicked moves that the broke identity forced upon you. The calm is not the reward of wealth. The calm is part of the cause. Consider how differently the quiet millionaire relates to time, because the broke identity and the wealthy identity live in completely different relationships to time, and this too shapes everything. The broke identity lives in urgency, in the desperate now, in I need it immediately, because lack is painful and the pain demands relief now. This urgency leads to short-term thinking, to grabbing small sums quickly rather than building large sums slowly, to spending instead of investing, to choosing the immediate over the exponential. The wealthy identity lives in a relaxed relationship to time, able to think in years and decades, able to let money compound, able to wait for the larger outcome because it does not have the throbbing pain of lack demanding instant relief. This patient relationship to time is one of the great engines of wealth, because real wealth is built through compounding over time, and compounding rewards the patient and punishes the urgent. By adopting the wealthy identity, you adopt its patience, and patience with money is one of the most reliable predictors of who ends up wealthy and who stays broke, regardless of income. Now I must address the deepest layer of this, which is worthiness, because beneath the broke identity there is almost always a quiet conviction that you do not deserve wealth, that it is for other people, that there is something about you that disqualifies you from the abundance others enjoy. This conviction is rarely conscious, but it runs everything, sabotaging every gain, talking you out of every ask, keeping you small in ways you rationalize as practical. The quiet millionaire simply does not carry this conviction. They assume, without arrogance, that wealth is as natural and appropriate for them as for anyone, that they are not exempt from abundance, that there is no cosmic rule barring them from having more than enough. And you must reach this same assumption, not through forcing yourself to feel deserving, but through understanding that worthiness is not something you earn, it is something you assume. No one is more inherently worthy of wealth than you. The people who have it did not pass a worthiness test. They simply assumed they could have it and never installed the disqualifying belief that haunts you. Drop the disqualification, assume your basic right to abundance, and one of the heaviest chains falls away. Let me bring this all together into something you can actually live, because the one mental thing the millionaires do is simple to state, and the practice to install it is equally simple. Each night, in the drowsy state before sleep, assume the identity of an already wealthy person and fall asleep occupying that self, feeling the calm, the security, the unbothered abundance of someone for whom money is simply not a problem. Each day defend that identity, declining the constant invitations to step back into the broke self, meeting bills and comparisons and setbacks as the wealthy person handling details rather than the broke person drowning in them. Make your decisions from the wealthy identity, the patient, calm, confident decisions that build wealth rather than the desperate, urgent, fearful ones that destroy it. And drop the hidden conviction that you are unworthy of abundance, assuming instead, as the quiet millionaires do, that wealth is as natural for you as for anyone alive. That is the entire practice. Assume the identity, defend the identity, decide from the identity, and remove the disqualification. Do this and you are no longer chasing wealth. You are being the person to whom wealth belongs. Let me answer the questions that are surely surfacing now, because they are the doorways through which doubt enters and undoes everything. The first is this: if I just assume I am wealthy, will money appear without me doing anything? And the answer corrects a misunderstanding that traps many sincere students. The identity does not replace action. It transforms action. The wealthy identity does not make you sit still while money rains down. It makes you take different action than the broke identity would, and that different action is what produces the wealth. From the broke identity, you act with fear, hesitation, self-sabotage, and short-term grasping. From the wealthy identity, you act with confidence, patience, intelligent risk, and long-term vision. Same person, same opportunities, completely different action, completely different results. So you will still act. You will still work, decide, negotiate, build, but you will do it as a different person. And that person, the one who already feels wealthy, takes the actions that the one who feels broke could never bring themselves to take. The identity is the root. The action is the fruit. Change the root and the fruit changes by itself. The second question is about the people who say this is just feel-good thinking, that real wealth comes from financial knowledge, hard work, and good decisions, not from changing how you feel about yourself. And the answer is that this objection actually proves the point, because financial knowledge, hard work, and good decisions all flow from identity. Two people can have identical financial knowledge, and one applies it and one does not. And the difference is identity. Two people can work equally hard, and one builds wealth, while the other stays broke, because one works from a wealthy identity that directs the work toward building, while the other works from a broke identity that directs the work toward mere survival and self-sabotage. The good decisions everyone praises are not the cause. They are the symptom of the identity that makes good decisions feel natural. You can hand a broke identity all the financial knowledge in the world and watch it make poor decisions anyway, because the identity overrides the knowledge every time. Fix the identity, and the knowledge, the work, and the decisions all align toward wealth because they finally have a root system that supports them. The third question is the painful one. What if I have tried to feel wealthy and it just feels fake, like I'm lying to myself and the feeling will not hold? This is the most common obstacle, and the answer is that it feels fake because it is new, not because it is false. Any new identity feels fake at first, because it contradicts the old identity that has felt like the truth for your entire life. When a shy person first practices confidence, it feels fake. When a person who has always felt unlovable first accepts love, it feels fake. The fakeness is not evidence that the new identity is wrong. It is evidence that the old identity is still dominant, and that you have not yet repeated the new one enough for it to feel natural. The entire art is to persist through the fake feeling phase, returning to the wealthy identity night after night, occupying it again and again despite the protest that it is not really you, until one day the protest goes quiet and the new identity simply feels like who you are. The millionaires next door do not feel fake assuming wealth, because for them it is old and worn in. Yours will feel worn in too, but only after you have worn it, and the wearing in happens precisely during the phase when it feels fake, which is why you must not quit there. I want to go deeper into the mechanics of the nightly practice, because this is where the identity is actually built and most people do it wrong. They lie in bed and try to think wealthy thoughts, to convince themselves with arguments and affirmations, and they wonder why nothing shifts. The error is that they are working at the level of thought, when identity lives at the level of feeling. You do not think your way into a new identity. You feel your way into it. So in the drowsy state before sleep, you do not argue with yourself about wealth. You generate the feeling of being wealthy, the bodily, emotional sense of security, ease, and abundance, and you soak in that feeling until you fall asleep in it. You imagine a simple scene that produces the feeling naturally, a moment of casual financial ease, and you let the feeling it produces become the last thing in your awareness as you drop into sleep. The feeling is what sinks into the subconscious and reshapes the identity. The thoughts are just scaffolding to reach the feeling. Aim for the feeling every night, and the identity rebuilds itself in the dark while you sleep, which is the laziest and most powerful identity work available to a human being. There is something else the quiet millionaires understand without ever putting it into words, and it is the relationship between identity and self-talk. All day long you are narrating your life to yourself, and that narration is constantly reinforcing one identity or another. The broke identity narrates in the language of lack. I cannot afford this. I am terrible with money. Why does this always happen to me? There is never enough. Each of these sentences is a brick in the broke identity, laid silently, hundreds of times a day. The wealthy identity narrates differently, not through forced affirmation, but through the natural speech of someone who assumes abundance. It is handled. There is always more where that came from. I will find a way. I always do. Money flows to me. You do not have to plaster fake affirmations over your fear. You have to catch the lack narration and stop laying those bricks, and gradually replace them with the natural speech of the identity you are building. Watch your inner narration for one day, and you will hear your current identity broadcasting itself constantly, and in that broadcast you will find both the cause of your situation and the lever to change it. Let me speak to the fear of loss, because it is one of the clearest markers separating the two identities, and one of the most important to address. The broke identity is terrified of losing money, because in the broke identity, money is scarce, hard to get, and tied to survival. So every potential loss feels like a threat to existence itself. This fear leads to clutching, to playing too safe, to missing the intelligent risks that build wealth, and paradoxically to the bad decisions that cause the very losses it fears. The wealthy identity holds money more loosely, not carelessly, but with the calm of one who assumes that money is abundant and replaceable, that a loss is a setback rather than a catastrophe, that there is always more to be made. This loose grip is not recklessness. It is the freedom that allows clear thinking and intelligent risk, the freedom to make decisions based on opportunity rather than terror. When you install the wealthy identity, your relationship to loss transforms, and that transformation alone will improve your financial life, because most financial damage is done not by loss itself, but by the panicked decisions that fear of loss produces. I want to give you a way to accelerate the identity shift, and it is to begin noticing and collecting evidence of the new identity in your daily life. The mind builds identity partly through evidence, and it is always gathering evidence for whichever identity is dominant. The broke identity scans constantly for proof of lack and finds it everywhere, ignoring all evidence of abundance. You can deliberately reverse this by training your attention to notice every small piece of evidence that abundance is your natural state. The unexpected discount, the bill that was lower than feared, the money that came from an unexpected direction, the meal you enjoyed, the roof over your head, the 1,000 small abundances you normally overlook. By noticing and quietly registering these, you feed the wealthy identity the evidence it needs to grow, and you starve the broke identity of the monopoly on your attention it has always enjoyed. This is not denial of real problems. It is the deliberate correction of an attention that has been trained your whole life to see only lack. Train it to also see abundance, and the identity follows the attention. Finally, understand the long game, because the quiet millionaires are playing one, and it is the source of their durability. They are not trying to feel wealthy for a moment to manifest a quick windfall. They have a permanent identity that produces wealth continuously, across decades through good times and bad. This is why they can lose money and rebuild it, why a setback does not destroy them, why their wealth tends to grow steadily rather than spike and crash. The identity is the constant, and the identity keeps producing the behaviors and decisions and calm that generate and protect wealth over a lifetime. When you install this identity, you are not setting up a single manifestation. You are changing the permanent operating system that will run your finances for the rest of your life. This is why it is worth the patience it takes to install, why it is worth persisting through the phase where it feels fake, why it is worth defending daily against the constant invitations to revert. You are not chasing one outcome. You are becoming a different kind of person, and a different kind of person has a different kind of life, automatically, permanently, from the inside out. So look around your street again, at the unremarkable houses and the modest cars and the quiet people who never talk about money, and understand that the difference between them and you was never income, never luck, never some advantage you lacked. The difference was a single mental thing, an identity assumed rather than a goal chased, a sense of already being wealthy that drew the wealth as surely as a magnet draws iron, while your sense of reaching for wealth kept it forever just beyond your fingertips. You now know the one thing they do, the thing you knew nothing about until today. They were not handed something you were denied. They simply held money in their minds in a way you were never taught, and that quiet difference, repeated across years, became the gap between their street and yours. The only question that remains is whether you will keep chasing wealth as a goal, the way you always have, with the results you always have, or whether you will finally do what the millionaires next door have quietly done all along, and simply become, in your own mind, the wealthy person you have been trying so hard to reach. Tell me in the comments the new ending to that sentence, the one you are choosing now. When I think about money, I feel like someone who write the wealthy ending and then go live as that person, because that is the whole secret, and now it is yours.